Hello, welcome back everyone. Today we are diving into a topic that has shaped history, sparked revolutions and influenced countless movements, Karl Marx and his theories. Now, before you hit pause, let me ask you something. If you or have you ever wondered why despite living in a world that celebrates capitalism, there are still so many discussions around wealth inequality, workers' rights, and the struggles of working class? If you have, you are in the right place. Imagine a world where the fruits of labor are shared, where no one goes hungry while others accumulate vast wealth. Sounds idealistic, right? Well, that was the vision of Karl Marx. His idea ignited the imagination of millions and led to a political upheavals that changed the course of nations. But why did such compelling ideas struggling to take root in reality? Today, we will explore Marx's life, his theory, and the rise and fall of communism. Let's start with Karl Marx himself, born in 1818 in Trier, Germany. Marx grew up in a time of significant social and economic changes. Europe was undergoing the Industrial Revolution, transforming societies as people moved from rural areas to cities in search of work. While this promised opportunity, it often resulted in exploitation with workers enduring long hours and meat wages in dangerous conditions. Marx studied law and philosophy and immersing himself in the ideas of Hegel and other philosophers also. His early life career as a journalist was marked by controversies, often leading to conflicts with authorities. In 1843, he moved to Paris, France, where he met Friedrich Engels, a partnership that would be pivotal in the development of his theory. Now, let's dive into the heart of Karl Marx's theory, a class struggle. At the core of Marxism, in the belief that society is divided into two main classes, the proletariat, which means the working class, and the bourgeoisie, the capitalist. The proletariats create wealth through their labor, but they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their work. Instead, the bourgeoisie reaps the rewards. This struggle is not just an economic battle, it's a social and political one as well. Marx believed that the fight between these classes were the driving force of history. He famously stated that the history of all existing society in the history of class struggle. This means that every historical period has been defined by the conflicts between those who have power and those who have not. So, to illustrate this, let's take a look at a specific example from Marx's time, the factory system. Imagine a young worker in a textile factory. Suppose he or she works 12 hours a day, often in a dangerous condition for a pittance. Meanwhile, the factory owners in profiting immensely, living a life of luxury. This disparity is what Marx found so troubling. He believed that this exploitation created a sense of alienation among workers, where they felt disconnected from their labor and their humanity. So, the alienation means they felt disconnected, some sort of. So, Marx introduced the concept of surplus value to explain this exploitation further. Surplus value is the difference between means what workers are paid and the value of the good they produce. For instance, if a worker makes a product of worth $100 but is paid only $50, that $50 is a surplus value that goes to the capitalist. This concept was crucial for Marx because it highlighted how capitalism relies on the exploitation of labor to generate profits and profits. Now, let's move on to the historical materialism, another fundamental aspect of Marx's philosophy. Karl Marx argued that the economic base of society, how goods are produced and who controls those means of production, shapes the political and ideological superstructure, including laws, politics, and culture. In simpler terms, our economic condition dictate our social relations and political structures. For example, during a feudal system, the relationship between lords and serfs were defined by land ownership. When capitalism emerged, those relationships shifted to employers and employee. Marx believed that as the means of production evolved, So, to vote the class structure, this is what the Marx believed. In nutshell, Marx believed that as the means of production evolved, so too would the class structure. He predicted that the capitalism, like feudalism before it, would eventually give way to socialism, then to classless society, that is called communism, right? Now, let's touch on the ideas of alienation, which is crucial to understanding Marx's view of the worker's experience. Alienation refers to a separation of individual from their work. Disconnected sort of thing. When alienation means refers to a separation of individual from their work, kind of disconnected, and the product of their labor and even from themselves. So in nutshell, alienation refers to the separation of individual from their work, the product of their labor and even from themselves. In a capitalist society, workers become mere instrument of production. They don't see the result of their works as a part of themselves. Instead, they feel detached and unfulfilled. For instance, think about an assembly line worker. Their job is repetitive and mechanical. They don't see the entire product. They only contribute a small part. This lack of connection can lead to a feeling of emptiness and dissatisfaction. Marx believed that alienation was not just a byproduct of capitalism, but a fundamental flaw in the system. Let's dive into Marx's most influential work, the Communist Manifesto and the Das Kapital. The Communist Manifesto, published in 1848, in a rallying cry for the working class. It's concise but powerful, urging workers to unite against their oppressors. The famous line, "Workers of the world unite," encourages solidarity among the proletariat. The manifesto outlines the history of class struggle and Marx's vision of revolutionary change. He believed that the proletariat could rise against the bourgeoisie, a capitalist class, overthrowing the capitalist system and establishing classless society. This idea inspired countless movements around the world. On the other hand, the Das Kapital, it is more extensive and detailed analysis of capitalism. In this work, Karl Marx explored the economic laws that govern capitalist society, delving into topics like commodity, production, labor value, and capital accumulation. It's challenging read, but it's critical for understanding his critique of capitalism. Now, let's talk about the impact of Marx's idea. His theories fueled revolutionary movement throughout the 19th and 20th century. The most notable was the Russian Revolution of 1970, which led to the establishment of the Soviet Union, the first state to implement Marxist principles. Initially, many saw the rise of communism as a beacon of hope for workers. The Bolshevik, led by Vladimir Lenin, promised land, peace, and bread to the people. Yes, bread to the people. They aimed to create a society based on Marx's idea, where the means of production would be owned collectively. However, as we know, the implementation of Marxism in the Soviet Union took a dark turn. Stalin's regime was marked by repression, forced collectivism, and widespread purges. Instead of the classless society, Marx envisioned that the Soviet Union developed into a totalitarian state with a new ruling elite. These contradictions between Marx's ideal and the reality of communist state raised significant question about the viability of Marxism. Let's pause and reflect on why communism attracted so many people during the 20th century. After World War I and during the Great Depression of 1929, many were disillusioned with capitalism. Economic instability, poverty, and inequality made Marx's idea appealing. People saw communism as a way to address these issues and create a fairer society. However, despite the initial enthusiasm, communist regimes struggled to deliver on their promises. Economic failures, lack of political freedom, and human rights abuses tarnished the ideology's reputation. By the late 20th century, the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a significant turning point. It was seen as a definitive failure of Marxist ideology in practice. So, where do we stand today? While many countries abandoned traditional Marxism, the idea of Karl Marx continued to resonate. In the 21st century, discussions around the wealth inequality, corporate power, and workers' rights have revived interest in his theories. Social movements like the fight for living wage and labor's right drawn up Marxist critiques of capitalism. Activists argued that the capitalist system perpetuates inequality and that workers must unite to demand better conditions. Moreover, the contemporary thinkers and economists continue to engage with Karl Marx's ideas. Scholars analyze the relevance of his critiques in the context of modern capitalism, exploring how technology, globalization, and financialization affect the working class. So, is Marxism dead? Well, not at all. It has evolved, adapted, and found new life in a various form. While Marxist states may have failed in the past, the question he raised about capitalism, inequality, and exploitation remain critical today. In conclusion, Karl Marx's life and his theory provide us with profound insights into the nature of society and the struggle within it. His call for workers to unite against exploitation is as relevant now as it was in the 19th century, right? And as we navigate the complexities of our modern world, reflecting on Marx's idea can help us better understanding the ongoing struggles for equality and justice. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Karl Marx, Marxism, and communism. If you enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, share it with your friends, and let us know what topic would you like us to cover next. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and take care. Thanks for watching and listening.